What's going on, everyone? Welcome to AltNews Tonight. I'm your host, Jeran from Jeranism, and with me, because he has to be, is Nathan Stoltman. Nathan, are you there?
It's not just because I have to be. I want to be here, Jeran.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, don't tell fibs about me.
Sorry, we got started a little bit late. We had some technical difficulties, and we are trying to go this week without our beautiful faces on the camera, so we do apologize for that. I know we just lost half the audience because of it, but we're just trying something a little different this time, so sorry.
Because
about that.
we're not being on camera?
Yeah.
You know what you're showing on the screen is the what it is fade out, I think.
Yes, it probably is because we have nothing
What
to
else
show.
are they going to look at, though, huh?
They could look at the browser window.
Yeah, I suppose.
That's pretty good. So what do I want to start with? And then we'll get into the news. I didn't have a whole lot of time yesterday to spend on checking the news because I was dealing with a Mr. Zachary K. Hubbard. He is a master at the art of gematria. And recently he started to speak out against the idea of a flat earth. Have you heard any of his videos or seen any of that, Nathan?
I was going to say he's a master of something else. I heard a little bit of that show. I was hoping that you would play some of it. And then we can talk about Zachary Hubbard and his mastery of gematria, the many gematrias.
Tons of them.
Or
Yes,
the many
indeed.
different forms. Yeah, I'm excited. I listened to some of it and formed an opinion quickly. So I'm interested to hear what our audience thinks.
All right, well, I've got a little clip to play for you, so we'll start out with that. It's just a few minutes long, so let's start out there, and we will talk after that.
The North Star proves the Earth is a sphere.
How
You see, a lot of flat earthers seem to have no knowledge about the North Star. They don't understand that it's way, way further away than all the other stars. That's why it appears to never move in the sky, because it's so distant. That's what we're
You're
told.
so off. I hope you know how bad you're completely wrong about that. What do you mean?
How am I completely wrong about that?
Because
That's mathematics.
What do you mean it's mathematics? So the other stars that do circles in the sky has something to do with their distance from the Earth?
Absolutely.
Oh boy.
Well,
Dude,
I don't understand why that's funny. The North Star is supposed to be way further away than all those other stars.
The star is between 400 and 500 light years away. That it's not far at all compared to every other star. The stars are all such equal distances away from the Earth. Not equal. I'm saying they are all so incredibly far that they all act identical. That's why we see star circles, because even though one might be 100 light years and the other one might be 4,000 light years, even though that's a couple 100 trillion miles difference, they do the exact same thing. The reason the North Star stays where it is because it's directly aligned with the axis of the Earth. That's the reason why it stays where it is. Has nothing to do with its distance. It's not even...
According to the model, anyways.
Yeah, according to the model. And this is why I hate explaining the globe.
Look, so I just have to say something. The average star, in terms of science, this is scientific understanding, the average star is 4.3 light years from the Earth. This is the scientific knowledge. I'm just saying this is what's out there, and everyone can verify this.
Star.
The average star is 4.3 light years away. The North Star is said to be 433.8 light years away. That's over 100 times further away. So, Jeran, and this is what I mean with the flat Earth community, because all night you've been saying I'm not researched. Look, I'm very well researched in a way because I studied this stuff in school. I was always top of my class, Jeranism. I'm not just any.
I'm trying to
look.
Wrong.
The North Star is 100 times further away than the average star. So you can't just say it's just like all the other ones, because it's not true.
What you're saying is completely false, Zach. The closest star to us is 4 light years away. The closest star. Okay, so when you say the average star is a couple thousand light years, could be a million light years. What stars are you considering when you're taking an average? You're talking about all the stars? That doesn't make any sense. Some stars are billions of light years
further away.
Yes.
Yeah, some stars are billions of light years away. What do you mean?
The North Star is special. It's a lot more distant than the majority of stars in the sky. Anyone can look this up. Look, if you're in the flat Earth and you're into this debate right now, look it up after Jeranism and I are done talking.
The furthest star is known, according to the model, is 13.3 billion light years away. So that's...
All right, so take an average. The average isn't going to come out to 4.
The North Star you said is how many, babe? How many million?
It's between 400 and 500.
But millions. So
No. The North Star is 400 or 500 light years away.
Okay, so that's
But that's not an average. It's a very
The North Star is
close.
also, I forget what they call it in space. It's in a special spot too, supposedly right above the North Pole. But
That's it.
the fact
Yeah.
that it is so distant is the reason it appears to never move in the
Holy
sky.
Christ,
And the point
Jeran.
is I hear a lot of flat Earth channels saying that the North Star never moves, and
It's
that
almost over.
is proof that we're stationary. But if
Well,
you look
just
at the
check-
mathematics of how far away it is, it's explained why it is what it is. And there's a reason sailors have used it for 1,000 years and probably longer than that to sail the oceans.
You're basically
14.
wrecking your channel right now, because this is going to be repeated over and over again. You're going to get shown that you had no clue what you're talking about. So I'm just telling you, I would stop talking about that. Look up the things you're saying first.
Don't look up things that support what you were taught in school, because that's what
Well,
you're.
even he's not talking about anything that's close to being correct. The North Star being at the center and not moving has absolutely zero to do with its distance from Earth.
So anyway, that was fun, wasn't it?
Holy crap! I was like, doesn't anybody have a smartphone in there?
I know.
Because
I couldn't.
I just looked it up, and who knows what the hell he was talking about?
I couldn't figure
And
it out.
screaming
either.
about it. The average star. All I had to do was do a search. Distance of stars on Google.
Mm-hmm.
The average Alpha Centauri. It says a light year. Alpha Centauri A and B are roughly 4.35 light years away.
Which would be the
Proxima
closest,
Centauri
right?
is 4.25 light years away. It talks about them. I don't know if those are the closest, but then it says that I guess I should put an average, but the North Star is 433 light years. So it's no different than every other star.
Well, here's the problem with when you say average of the stars is there is no
Oh, you
such
can get
thing.
a mathematical average. Here, it's the nearest is 4.3. It says. Oh, maybe you're right, because they go off to infinity.
Right. So I mean, how can you?
whatever
That's
the closest thing.
the average star
Yeah.
distance. I mean, which stars you can? I mean, now if you're just taking what we can
That's a good
see,
point.
maybe you can take the stars that we can see. I think there's like 300 or I don't know how many we can actually see. But if you took the average
Right,
of
a
those,
lot.
you would not be 4.3, considering that is the closest. So
Those are the closest. Yeah, it's actually one of the North Star is one of the closest stars. It seems.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm sorry. It's 433. Hold on.
Yeah,
Hold
it's
on. We just want to make sure to
433.
get it right. Okay, so it's far, but if you say what? Well, how can you even say what the furthest star is?
the furthest
There
star
are
that we can see,
billions of them. Yeah.
the furthest star we can see, I believe, is 1,600 light years away. That's a guess, so you might have to
Okay,
look that
so
up.
that's okay. Here, no. According to this article, farthest star we can see with our naked eye is 16,300 light
Oh,
years away.
16,000. Okay.
So I think what he was talking about, you'd have to do a little more work to see the usual stars we see, like how far is, I don't know, something in Orion or something. But all the same, it has nothing whatsoever to do with it staying fixed in the sky. The reason it stays fixed in the sky on a globe model is because the globe spins around that axis. That's it. Just
Right.
because it happens to be directly over the north, the axis of the Earth.
So I just did the math on that. 16,000 light years is 96 quadrillion miles. That's a 96 followed by 15 zeros. So this is the kind of thing that I'm trying to point out is that, go outside tonight and look up at the sky and take a look at the first star you see and just realize that the closest star to us is 25 trillion miles away. And if you want to know how far away that is, you can think of a gun. I mean, a bullet is extremely fast, right? You're not going to be able to dodge it or anything. But if you shot a bullet at the closest star and it continued to go the speed that it left the barrel, it would take 1.9 million years until the bullet got to the closest star. So, I mean,
Right.
It's just ridiculous that that's the closest one. So all these distances are astronomical.
Yeah,
See what I did
yeah.
there?
Well, and it's just it's upsetting to hear somebody. We don't need to talk about other YouTubers necessarily, and I don't think we make a point to do it.
Mm-mm.
But you guys were on a show together, and the way he talks about facts as if he's got a grasp on them is disturbing. When clearly,
Yeah, that's what
they
what bothers
weren't
me.
really
is-
researched.
And that's all I want people to do. And I think that if people asked why are people becoming flat earthers, and I know a lot of people consider it a psyop or that it's a stupid idea, ancient desert wandering belief. But if people are wondering, and I know some people might be watching the show that don't necessarily believe that, and that's fine. I think people can believe what they want. But if you're wondering why are people starting to follow this idea and look into it, it has a lot to do with once you've done the research on the model that we've all been taught, because they just kind of explain it away. They just kind of told us when we were kids, oh, it's a globe, and we all stick to it, and it's because of gravity, and we're in the universe, and there's planets and other suns. And they just kind of leave it there. And when you really start to dig into it, you realize that there's a lot of assumptions that go along with the idea of being on a spinning ball, which it sounds ridiculous that you're just like, yeah, we all know, we were all taught we're on a spinning ball. It's in space. There's no really need to question it. And when you start looking into it and you notice that Einstein and all these guys fully admitted that there is no optical test that proves that the Earth spins, that's one thing that'll make you go, huh? When you really look into the distance of these stars and the ideas of the planets and everything that goes along with it, which we're spinning, we know that, then you're flying 66,000 miles per hour around the sun. Saying, okay, that's moving pretty good. The sun is you could fit 1.3 million Earths inside the sun. Now you got to start thinking that's a little bit strange. I mean, look at the sun in the sky tomorrow or today if you're somewhere where it's light out, and ask yourself if you could fit 1.3 million Earths inside the sun. But let's accept that too. You move on to that and realize that the solar system and the Earth is moving 480,000 miles per hour around the Milky Way galaxy.
And when you say realize, that's what science claims, right?
Right. Which is exactly. I just certainly don't believe that. And what I'm kind of getting at is that there's a lot of people who simply say, yeah, we're on a ball, everyone's told us. And when you really start digging in, you have to realize what comes along with that we're also going 480,000 miles per hour. And then the galaxy itself, which contains the solar system and us, is going 2.2 million miles per hour around what they call the Great Attractor. And this is something that's never been observed. It's simply part of their mathematics that must be true if the rest of it is. And the Great Attractor is 100 quadrillion times the size of the sun. So when you start realizing that there's some crazy things that are involved in this, that's when you really start to say, hold on a second, science loves to speak about Occam's razor. You know what that is?
Yeah.
Right.
The simplest answer is generally the correct answer. Simple and most elegant, I would add.
Right. And so they love to employ that when it's good for them. But in a case like the flat Earth, which if you put the Earth at the center of the universe and say everything is moving around us, it all of a sudden explains all the galaxies that they see moving around us. They see them all redshifting. Because they can't put the Earth at the center because it's not allowed in science world, they put it out in the end of the universe, and they said every planet and every area of the universe all sees the same thing. They all see galaxies moving away from them. And so the whole entire model that we're given is basically can be corrected, can be made simpler by just saying, well, what if the Earth is at the center? Everything moves around us. That explains galaxies. So all of a sudden, dark matter goes away. Dark energy goes away. All these things that they've had to add in kind of ad hoc, like 96% of the known universe hasn't been observed. We've never observed dark matter and dark energy.
It's invisible.
Right.
Yeah.
So, then it just seems like, hey, this is a simpler option. And yes, it has not been investigated as well as the globe. We don't have a map of what the flat Earth looks like. There's a lot of things that are not known, but there certainly shouldn't be a problem with people looking into them. And this is what we're basically getting is somebody like Zachary Hubbard just came along and said, and he does great work. And I've promoted him before, and he does great work with gematria. I don't totally agree with this study 100%, but regardless, if somebody came and asked me, Jeran, what do you think of gematria? I would say, you know what, I haven't done enough research on that. Why don't you go talk to Zachary Hubbard? Go watch his channel. He's done a lot of work on it. And I would kind of expect the same thing once somebody recognizes that we're all in the truth business, that you've watched enough of my videos to know I'm not out here telling lies, or I'm not trying to push anything other than watch my videos, make up your own mind, go from there. But then to just come out and start saying flat Earth is stupid, it's a psyop, stop watching these guys. Well, then the only thing I would expect is then you should have enough research that I can review.
Yeah.
I want to know if I'm in the wrong thing.
At least ask me why boats go over the curve,
Right. Exactly. Towards the end, he says, something about, Well, we should be able to figure this out then. We just get into a plane and we get on the equator and go east, and if we come back to where we started, then it's a ball. It's like, oh my goodness, that is such a I'll call it a second grade, research level, where it's first flat Earth.
Flat Earth map,
right?
On the simplest flat Earth map, the UN map.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
well, let me say this, Jeran. I want to say this is a flat Earth show, and I don't think the Earth is flat, but I think you guys are onto something, and I think it doesn't matter what shape the Earth is. The thing is that it's probably not a globe. It's pretty much, I'd say that's pretty, you could say it was debunked, the globe.
I would say
by
so.
the flat Earth folks. But I think it's, we're in a realm of some sort. I don't think we can have a flat Earth and still have eclipses the way we do. There's some, unless there's something sitting above the North Pole that blocks the sun over the moon. So that's one thing I need to understand. But we'll have another show about my specific questions about flat Earth and the things
you want
I
to
think
do
are
that
the most compelling too. But
you want to do that on Thursday?
Yeah, we can do that Thursday.
Okay, so why don't you get a list of all the things, all the questions that you have about the flat Earth, and I will answer them. So let's do that on Thursday. This way,
I don't need answers, but we can conversate about them. We can talk about it. We can ask questions.
Good, and that's
that was a disturbing
great.
interview.
Yeah, it was long, and I did lose my my gusto towards the end because I just realized he wasn't listening. And when you get to that point, you kind of like, what can I really? I can't really do much when people don't want to hear. And that's, I know you'd say the same thing, that when you get into the idea of the truth movement, or you really start digging in, there's a couple things you have to make sure you check at the door. And one is your ego. Another is your you have to understand that you don't know everything, that there's so much out there that you don't know. And you have to recognize that there's many people who have been doing this longer than you that know more than you. And so my ears are always
at least
open.
in certain topics.
Right, exactly. And I know that everyone's not going to be perfect. I know that if I watch your show, Nathan, that you're not going to be 100% dead on. I love your little slogan. I don't know if you use it anymore, but yours said, what did it say? Something.
Usually right. Usually right.
Right. Usually always right, honest. Always honest. And that is like perfect, because I don't expect perfection from you. I can watch what you're doing. I can watch your methods and your, the way that you go about the research. And that's enough for me to say, hey, this guy's doing a good job at research. And if you told me, hey, Jeran, I think that the Earth is actually a ball, and I would just, want to know your research behind it. And I know that you wouldn't make that claim without any research. So once you check your ego and you make sure that you understand that you don't know everything and that people know more than you, it just create a better environment for yourself. You're a listener. You're able to see how people come to their conclusions. Make sure you kind of fix the way that you research and present the information to people so that you're showing that you're being honest, intellectually honest. And that's what I think that I would expect from other truth seekers. And so when you find somebody that's not doing the research but still making the claims, I just put up the red flags and say, hold on a second. It's one thing you should have learned is to look into this stuff, not just come across and make claims like the North Star disproves the flat Earth because it is so far away from us that's why it doesn't move. From that point, it's like, okay, well, have you done any and he was making claims about he saw some other videos about it and that these people are lying. And I said, well, what videos are you talking about? He didn't see anything. He couldn't name a video that he's ever seen of mine, which, so what are you going to do?
You know what's weird? How long has he been making videos on YouTube?
I want to say 2 years or so.
2 years or so. And he's got about as many subscribers as you, or does he even have more?
I don't even know what he has. I think he's got, it was less at one time because he started, I think, after me, but it could be more.
He got famous talking about those numbers, and I said on my show, and I can talk about him because he has more subscribers than me.
There you go.
Is that, his shtick, his gimmick, you could call it, is to have something happen and then tell you why it was predictable using gematria and match words up with each other that happen to add up to the same thing in various versions of gematria. So my question was, since things happen and he explains why they were predictable, then let's get some predictions, and from what I heard, you said he had at one prediction. I forgot what I was looking at.
Well, no, he's made a few, but one particular, when I started to really pay attention to him is when I saw that he was making sports predictions, and being that I'm, I would say was a big sports fan. I played baseball, in school, and I was a big baseball fan my whole life. And so when he started making predictions based on gematria, I thought he was crazy. I said, sports aren't scripted. Give me a break. Well, in a short matter of time, he predicted, I think last year, every major sporting event champion. So Super Bowl, the NBA Finals.
Wow.
And he predicted them before the season started. So being
That's
somebody
crazy.
who used to dabble in even gambling, I just knew the odds of that happening are so slim that he must be onto something. And I saw him stand firm even after the NBA Finals last year, which was Cleveland against Golden State. And Golden State was up 3-1, and he had predicted Cleveland would win. Now, anybody who's ever made any kind of prediction in the series gets to 3-1, and that was a best of 7 series, so it's the first team that wins 4 games. If it's 3-1, anybody's going to back down from their prediction. Like, oh well, I actually think that it could be this now. He was so firm in his stance at a 3-1, and my buddy who still gambles, I haven't gambled in a while, but when he came over, I asked him, what are the odds if you bet Cleveland right now to win the series? Like, to win the series, I looked it up. It was like 900 plus 900, which is bet 100 to win 900. And
Wow.
I was like, oh, okay, well, that's, chances are pretty slim. And, there's Zach just saying, nope, it'll be Cleveland. They'll win in Game 7. Sure enough, Cleveland won the next game, and the next game. So they won the series. And that's when I said, okay, this guy seems to know what he's talking about, seems to be right on. And so, and I even told him when he was on our show, I said, I never really put much into the whole idea until I saw you making predictions. But that's kind of died down. I mean, he made predictions for this year, and they didn't come close. He was saying Hillary was going to win the presidency, then that didn't happen, and now he goes back and says, well, by the numbers, it was supposed to be Trump, but I just had this feeling that Hillary was going to win. So,
Wow.
and it's like, okay, whatever. But yeah, you're right about there's different types of gematria. There's Jewish gematria, and if nobody's ever seen what gematria is, I'll switch to my browser real quick here. But if you go to I think it's called, there's a gematria calculator, and I've done it just for fun. My wife and I do it for fun. That you can start to put any two events together and really find. Whoops, is this not the right calculator? Let's see what's happening.
There are a few of them.
Oh, here we go. Wait, is this the one I usually look at?
Matrix.
It's called the Gematrix. Gematrix. Oh yeah, right here. Okay. And so when you go to this calculator, you can put in any words and figure out what they calculate to. So let's see what Nathan comes out to. If it's 666, I'm sorry about that.
No, it's all right.
No. So you see there's a Jewish gematria equals 190. English is 348. Simple gematria is 58. But here's what basically somebody could do if they wanted to prove Nathan was whatever. They could go down here and look at, so that, there's all these words that are the same as Nathan. So if you found one that said Satan, if you found one that said, shill, then somebody's just going to put those together.
Yeah, or Counter Intel Pro.
Right, exactly. COINTELPRO. Actually, I think that's this one. No. And then, but if it doesn't meet something up here, then you can bring it down here even further, and now you're matching the ones that are, what's this one? English gematria. So you could say Lady Gaga, and if you played a video that had Lady Gaga, and I'm sure you might have at some point in your news show, somebody could just say, "Oh, he's playing that here. It's this connected here," and
Right.
it just becomes well. Basically, you've got 200,000 words in the English language, and you're reducing it. If you notice with what they call simple gematria, which is this one here, the last column, that really everything is between one. I think I usually say 1 and 200. It might be less than that. It might be 1 in 100. Basically, you're just taking each letter of the alphabet. So A being 1, B being 2, and then you add up your whole entire word, and that's how you get this number here. So
Right.
basically, you're taking 200,000 words and reducing it to 1 to 100. So you've got 100 different possibilities. There's going to be a ton of connections. You could connect any two events, any two, the election for Trump versus the election for Obama. You're going to be able to find words that were used or in 9/11 or whatever that you can connect. And that's where I don't think it's a study. In fact, I think it can send people down a rabbit hole that is with no end in sight, because you're just going to be bouncing all over the place. And well, this connects to this and this connects to that. And if you're not predicting anything, then you're really doing nothing. You know?
Yeah, that's why I say, and again, more those predictions he had before the season starts, all that stuff. And I think there's something to it. I think in fact, there's something to our reality being somewhat mathematically scripted, and in a way that could be predictable if you understand the formula right, but could be more predictable, or it could be easier to find where it came from by going back and seeing why an event was predictable. I believe those things are possible. I think math has a really important part in our universe, and things are guided by it. But what you just said, I mean, you have however many numbers. Let's say it looks like maybe it goes up to 3-digit numbers. So even if you have 1,000, think of how many words there are, and it's not just words. It'll end up being phrases. Like the terrorist, Muhammad or something, and he'll match that up. So anyway, I'm not going to spend more time talking about that, but it is worth talking about in terms of math in particular. You can use to prove pretty much anything you want. So numbers, I'll play around with them. The 33s are interesting. Numbers you run into in your daily life over and over again are interesting, but
and that's interesting that you said that. And I don't know if anybody that watches my channel knows about you on a more personal level, but you are, I don't want to call you a genius, but a math genius, right?
Funny. Yes and no. I mean, out of the 3 times I took the SAT, which was just, practice test twice, and I took it one time, I never missed a question in math. So at least that level of mathematics, I'm solid at. And general handling stuff in my head, I'm really good with ratios and understanding stuff more. I understand stuff more viscerally. So like, physics and, for example, Einstein's ideas about physics and special relativity and stuff. I have my own ideas from my experience and the way I feel, but my mathematics, as far as higher level math, it's not that impressive considering, I don't know, maybe what it should be.
Well, I saw you taught a class on base 12 system.
Yeah, on duodecimal, right, on base 12. Yeah, I did do that. Yeah, I'm into that stuff. I'm really into numbers.
Yeah, which is cool. And I think that it's interesting that you said, and hopefully everybody can hear you say it again, that you can prove anything with math.
Pretty much. Anything you want to. Anything you set out to, you can, with numbers, you can play around with them. That's how they figured out there's dark matter, I was thinking about that, by the way. Can I talk about that?
Please do.
The thing about Einstein that he got wrong was gravity, I'm pretty sure. And that's what's screwing everybody up. So, and when I started thinking about gravity more, that's one of the things that's hard to get a handle on, because it's not like it doesn't exist. It exists, what we call gravity. It's just that it's not a force, I don't think.
Well,
first of all, it's just not a force in a traditional sense. A force requires an application of force. You have to use something against something else.
I think that the stars and the galaxies are aligning, because I think you and I combined might be able to come up with something here. I also think that the one mistake in the entire universe and their calculations is gravity. So we're on the same page there. But I think it's so much a point that they understand that they can never question that, because gravity is what makes the Earth a sphere. So if you eliminate that, then all of a sudden there's no reason anymore, a naturalistic explanation. Then that's the thing that science has pigeonholed themselves by, is that everything has to have a natural, materialistic, accidental reason behind it. So it's not as easy for them just to say, well, gravity's gone, but the Earth is still a sphere because God made it that way. For instance, they can't say that. So if gravity doesn't exist, then there is no reason why anything would be in a spherical shape. So,
and it's not that it doesn't exist. I'm sorry.
True.
Go ahead.
I'll make sure I say that too. That I don't say gravity doesn't exist, because yes, if you jump off a building, I weigh more than the air around me, so I fall down. The problem people have is they say, well, why don't you fall up? So if you want to call the fact that what goes up comes down, if you want to call the fact that we fall at the the rate of fall, if you want to call that gravity, that's fine. Where I have a problem with gravity is more in the way that the universe works, in the way that they say that the moon is falling to the Earth, but just missing it and going around it. We're falling towards the sun, and that's where I lose gravity. And there's nothing that should tell us that what operates up in the heavens or in the sky has to equal the same rules and laws that exist on the Earth. So I know. Go ahead and say what you were going to say about gravity existing.
No. That's kind of right. That's what I was saying. Is we're not. They don't. It's not that. It's not necessarily crazy for them to think we're a sphere because we look up in the sky, and everything else out there is a sphere. So why would we be any different? I understand the logical thinking behind that. What makes us the only thing in the universe? And we can't observe ourselves. We do know that if you go east or west, that you wind up at the same spot again. So that seems, you have to think of why that happens. And I can imagine coming up with a globe for that. Things do fall towards Earth. And the question is, and in a sense, I agree that I think everything in the universe falls towards Earth or is influenced by Earth's gravity, which is that everything is falling towards Earth, and like they say, the Earth is just falling away. The only thing is that Earth isn't flat, so it's very hard to conceptualize. It's not a ball, but I don't think it's really flat. We're in some kind of a realm, but things, the gravity thing, thinking that other bodies that celestial bodies, we're not a celestial body like they are, thinking that those have their own unique gravity is the mistake. And I'd be curious if there really aren't. Boy, the thing is we have moons orbiting Saturn, right?
Correct. 62.
So if that's really happening and observable by telescope, that's a problem too for flat Earth and for my ideas about gravity too.
So, okay, and we'll talk about this. I mean, I can go through all that stuff because I obviously don't agree. But so when you said that everything else in the sky is spheres, I would say, well, how do we know that? Because
the planets, I mean, things we can observe with telescopes. For example, the moon. The moon, you can say it's a light in the sky, but if it is what it looks like, then it's a ball. And same with Venus, Jupiter, planets we can see from Earth. And now other stuff, stars,
Right, stars, you can't say that. Now, I would say the same thing for the moon, that to me, the moon appears to be spherical. Doesn't mean that it is. Doesn't mean that I don't often think of it in another way. But it does appear to be a sphere. I wouldn't say the same thing about the sun because the only time I've ever been able to see it is when it gets caught behind the clouds. And it is a very clear circle, but it doesn't resemble a sphere to me. And the only reason I would say that the moon doesn't resemble a sphere is, let me look up here, moon. If you take a light and shine anything at a sphere, you're going to see a hot spot. Okay, so for instance, if we look at any of these pictures, like this picture here, view image, where is it? If you look at this here, hopefully that takes up the whole screen. Yeah. So there is no hotspot here, meaning that this piece here should be brighter than the rest. And as you start to get over here towards the edges, it should get darker because that's how a sphere works. There would be shadow at the top and the bottom because we're looking at it and this part is closer to us. This middle point here is the closest to the light source and is the closest to us. And therefore, and if you look up like sphere shadowing or, people who are drawing pictures or painting, they would have a clear, here you go. So there's a hot spot telling you where the light source is in a sphere. There's no hot spot on the moon. There's no dark like this where you would have a dark and a light. Even, that's just some reason that I would say it doesn't really act like most spheres do, but it doesn't mean that it's not one. It just, but when you talk about the other planets, well, again, and I don't know if you've ever seen this. Have you done much looking through a telescope, Nathan?
Well, no, I haven't. I mean, that's the thing is I don't have a telescope, but my understanding is from, so I have a response to that sphere thing is when the light's far enough away, you wouldn't have a hot spot, but it's not important. And I think the moon, as far as the way it's lit exactly the way it would be in the flat Earth model. When the sun is directly across from the moon, and you can do this on a full moon night, have the sun behind you when it's setting, follow your shadow straight forward, and it will go directly into the rising moon. So you'll have the sun in a flat Earth model shining directly on the face of the moon. And as it moves around, the sun is a little faster than the moon. Eventually, that creates the cycle of the moon. The thing I don't understand is how it gets lit from the bottom. So I'd have to, I can't figure that out. It's one of the things I need to work on. So what are you showing me? A picture of a planet, it looks like, right?
Yeah, I think this is through a telescope that somebody is looking at Jupiter, which whenever I look at this stuff, it seems like there's always something missing. In this particular case, where are these 62 moons? I don't see them. I don't see this as being a required sphere. Now, let me explain something else that happened to me. We had somebody send us a telescope. When I started making flat Earth videos, they got a hold of me and said, I need to get you a telescope. I don't think that you've ever looked through one. That's why you're getting confused. So they sent us a nice telescope. It was a couple $100 at least, 10-inch Dobsonian, or was it 8-inch? No, 8-inch. And anyway, we looked through things, and you can't see much. We saw Jupiter. We saw Mars. Oh, there's a moon maybe. And so when we looked through it, I noticed that by taking off the eyepiece and looking just through the eyepiece, if I looked across the street or at my car or at the house, that it looked like a fisheye lens. It made the item I was looking at appear to become spherical. Not a sphere. You don't look through it and see your car as a sphere. You see it bent away from you like like a fisheye would. So right when I saw that, I said, hold on a second. So this is the last thing that hits before my eye, meaning that whatever's coming into that telescope is being returned to the eyepiece, and the eyepiece that I can just take off and look at my house is putting things into a sphere form. Now, when I asked people the question about that, they said, well, it's because when the light's coming to your eyepiece, it's bent slightly out of sync, so the lens the lens piece is readjusting that for you. But I said, well, I don't know that, meaning that the light that's coming to my eye could be perfectly fine, and by putting that eyepiece on there, I'm given the impression of a sphere.
Well, you could test that pretty easily. You can look at the moon with your eye and then look at it with the telescope. And if it looks the same, then you would want to trust that other things in the sky are also the same. I mean, you don't want to just
that's what we did. We looked across the street, like instead of looking in the sky.
Yeah, but I mean, you'd have to look at the sky with that eyepiece, because the thing is, a zoom lens distorts things the other way. So the people that told you that, well, they could be right. Is all I'm saying. So what I would say is that if gravity isn't a thing, if Einstein was wrong, at least about the way it works, for example, I'll get back into zero gravity, but if he was wrong, which is what I've been thinking lately, then there wouldn't be moons around other planets. They couldn't be, because everything is spinning around Earth, including whatever moons might be around that planet. So I'm curious what those would be, and I would have to do some more research on it. But I was thinking about it. They say you escape Earth's gravity when you go up in a satellite, for example. And I do believe satellites can fly because the moon is a satellite. The sun, in fact, I believe, is probably a satellite. And the idea of what people experience as zero G makes sense if you're actually under the effect of full Earth's gravity, the same way you would be in a parabolic flight. So you're never escape Earth's gravity, ever. At least that not in zero G. Zero G is still a full gravitational force, even in
I think they say it's like 90 high 90% or something. So it's close
you
to
float around just because you're in free fall with
Correct.
your environment. If you fall in anything in your environment, the only time you feel gravity is when you hit the ground. That's the thing about gravity is an accelerative force. And in order to apply an accelerative force, you need pressure. Think of the times you've experienced something called a G-force. It's when you're sitting in a plane or a car and you have a seat pushing up against your back. If that weren't the case, there would be you wouldn't feel anything. It would be the same as being in zero G. So that's why I say gravity's not a force. And that's one of the things they're trying to find out, is there need to be something that apply this accelerative force on you. And that thing is theorized to be a graviton or something. But I don't believe they found what that mechanism would be, because again, their force is required, equals mc squared. There is a real force required, and when you're in free fall under the effect of gravity, I was just thinking, you don't feel a force, and I don't think there is a real force, not the way we describe it. Anyway,
that's a
as
good
far
point,
as
because
the
I don't think
things-
there is a force either. It doesn't make sense to me that you'd be falling in free fall, but able to go around curvature and not run into the walls of the craft that you're in.
Well, it would be falling the same. It'd be like skydiving in a barrel or something, or in a big bubble or something, where both of you are falling at the same speed. And so, but the thing is even in that situation, so you feel weightless actually, but if you're under the effect of gravity, you're accelerating towards Earth, which means there is a force on you. How come you don't feel a force? You wouldn't even know up from down if you're in a vacuum and free fall.
Right.
So that's what got me spinning off on gravity is because you don't feel it. You don't feel it.
Mhm.
You only feel it when you hit the ground. But the rest of the time, it's as if it's not there. You don't know up from down, and you should, if
Right.
you're being pushed downward at accelerating rate. So,
And you would feel it if you're falling and feel air going up against you. But you're talking about,
let's say you're in a vacuum, right? Like you're in outer space, let's say, right? Or in a satellite. You're falling, or in a parabolic flight. Let's say that, because you're under the full effect of gravity in a parabolic flight. So you go up, the thing begins to fall is traveling at the same rate as you are, exactly the same, falling the same. You're floating, you feel weightless. But what I propose is, but you're obviously still under the effects of gravity because you're accelerating towards Earth. It's just the plane's going with you. But you don't, in that situation, if you close your eyes, you don't feel a force. You don't feel something pressing you down towards the Earth, which you should, if you're under a force. That's all I'm saying. Gravity to me is a thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, my
It's
other
just
question would be, as far as we just were looking at Venus, this is Saturn. What tells you, if you were to say, okay, well, these are moons going, I know these aren't, but this is the rings. But what would tell you that anybody knows the size of whatever this is?
Nothing.
Right.
And we have no idea. That the other thing about the speed of light, if we are able to measure how far these things are away by how long the light travels to get to us, well, the thing is, we've never been to outer space. We don't know that the speed of light is constant through the universe.
Right.
So it could be that those things are much closer in some sort of metaphysical reality, and the light takes longer to get here. But as you get further away from Earth, that's just an idea, but it's just to explain.
Well, let me ask you, because maybe because I've never been able to figure this out. So if they're using the speed of light to determine how far away these things are, how would you know? How could you measure the speed of light of Saturn? That by the time you look at it, it's already there.
The speed of light could get slow. It could change as you exit the influence of Earth's gravity, for example, if there is a thing. But we don't know. We've never been to outer space. We can't possibly test it. So that's the thing I've thought about. Like the sun, maybe the light takes that long to get here, and in a sense, the way light travels is how reality is. But there could be some metaphysical sense that it's actually much, much closer, and that the light just takes longer than we think to get to Earth.
I just think that light would never. The fact, I don't even know how far they say Saturn is. I wouldn't know that. It's got to be. I should look that up. Probably
it varies, I'm sure.
Yeah,
based on the orbit.
Maybe it's like 100 million miles, or is it a lot more than that?
I have no idea.
So
not my area of expertise.
So where's the proof that even light would even come 746 million miles? There's no even anything close to telling us that light would travel that far.
Well, we don't know.
We don't know.
The point is there's no way for us to know.
No, because we have to go under the assumption that in space that there's just nothingness, which doesn't really jive well with me. You're talking about, Einstein talked about the fabric of space-time, and they show you the grid with the Earth pushing down on the grid. Well, but space is nothing. So how is the fabric of nothing bent by matter? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's not nothing. Yeah.
Well, isn't it the closest to nothing that there is?
Well, there is no such thing as nothing, I guess. And I don't know that the bending of space-time is impossible. I just don't know that it happens anywhere. It might happen on Earth, for example. but I don't know that it happens anywhere else. And again, as far as knowing how far away something is, maybe we can measure how long light takes to get to us. I don't know exactly, if we don't know how far it is in the first place, how we can measure the light. But I'll take it. I'll say that is possible based on following the orbit of other planets. But
what is possible?
For us to measure how long we think it's taking light to arrive. So we may be able to measure.
How would you do that? I guess I can understand if you have a test on Earth where you shoot a laser off a mirror and it comes back and you can calculate that. But how do you?
Well, right.
So if we shoot a laser off Saturn, it's not going to come back.
Oh, it's something similar. Listen, I don't know. I'm just gonna say, for the sake of argument, let's say that's possible.
Okay.
And that we can measure how long light is taking to get to us from various sources. Let's say that that math is all sound. Then the problem is you have to accept Einstein's idea that the speed of light is constant in all situations, which from what we can test here on Earth, it is, I guess, through water and everything else.
No, it's much slower through water.
The speed of light, is it?
Yeah, because that's why if you shine a laser and it hits the water, that it changes its path, is because you've slowed down that light. So
right.
They measure the speed of light on the Earth, which is going through technically liquid. Air is liquid. So that's why I've just never understood any of that. I think it's all conjecture. It's all putting things where they don't belong. They say that they sent lasers off the moon. People use that as their reason why the moon landings were real. However, you can look it up in 1962, May of 1962. They got the distance of the moon by shining a laser off of it, and it returned. So you can't then say, oh, well, because the astronauts put these mirrors there and now we can send lights off them. Well, they did that before the astronauts ever went. So it's could be, and that doesn't mean men went there. Let's just say, and I don't believe this, but let's say that the moon is an actual rocky body that is up in the sky. Well, you could send a probe there or something. It doesn't necessarily mean that men went there.
Well, I don't think we can get anything. I don't think anything leaves.
No, neither do I.
Or whatever it is, I really don't. I think we have satellites, but I don't think anything leaves. You know what we should do, which we promised, and I don't think you've given out the phone number. Do you want to take some calls? We've been running our mouths for a while.
Yeah, too long probably. Yeah, we'll open up the phone lines if anybody wants to call in. The phone number is 562-735-FLAT. I wish I had 25. I don't know what that is. 25. Is A 1 or 2? 25.
A is 2.
Okay, so it's 2. Oh no, so I lied. Flat would be 35. Nope. Yeah, 3528. Make sure I write that down. 3528. So it's 562-735-3528. I'm opening up that phone line now, and if you want to call us, we will take your call.
I just put it in the thing. Put it in the thing. We can invite people to the Hangout too, but I think people will call. They seem to call your show often.
Yeah, and do you have some news you wanted to go through too?
We ended up having an unexpected discussion about a lot of stuff. I don't know that we're going to need to cover anything else. I don't know. When did we go on the air today?
I think it was probably close to 8:20. I don't know.
Was it 8:20? Okay, so we haven't been on an hour yet. Yeah, I can go ahead and cover something. This will be an easy one. You're into crisis actors, right?
Oh yeah.
I was covering the Melbourne attacks, which are interesting. And by the way, PK has lived in Melbourne his whole life.
We got a call here, so we'll take that. Hey, you're on with.
So go ahead and take it.
AltNews Tonight. Can you hear me? Okay.
Hello.
Yeah. What's up?
Hey, is this Jeran?
Yep. What's going on?
Hey, I was wondering if Bob ever worked out that map that was going to be based on the airline distances.
I know that he's still working on it, and he's actually in the chat. I saw him earlier. So I think that, last time I knew that his wife was still plugging in all those numbers because, yeah, she was basing it off of different flight times. And so let me see if he answers that question. But I know they're still working on it. I know they didn't get to a point where they just gave up or anything.
Okay.
But, yeah, so they're still working on it.
Cool. And I just wanted to kind of throw something in there. It's kind of a theory of mine, but I'm sure you guys are familiar with Ken Wheeler and how, he basically teaches that gravity is just the incoherent dielectric acceleration.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a theory that I don't know if you guys ever heard of this experiment. It's called the Millikan experiment of 1909.
Can you
And
say it again?
basically a guy-
What did you say it was? The Millikan?
Millikan, Millikan, I believe.
Never heard of it.
And yeah, his name was Robert Millikan. And in 1909, he built a chamber, and it had an electrified plate on the top and an electrified plate on the bottom. And he injected drops of oil into it, and simply by changing the potential difference between the top plate and the bottom plate, he could make drops of oil hover in between the two plates using only electrical fields. So I think that what ultimately causes gravity, as they call it, is the firmament on top, and then the pillars of the earth, as the Bible says, or the something with deeper within the earth, because obviously we've only drilled 8 miles down or whatever. I think it's basically we're living inside a giant field like that, basically a scaled up Millikan apparatus.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's kind of my theory.
I agree that we're in some sort of a field. Can the caller hear me? Can you hear me, caller?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm with you. Isn't that what Tesla said pretty much too? And kind of a little bit what people say the electric universe idea, or is the electric universe separate from that?
Right. But I think what's different about this, though, is that it actually has a scalable mechanism. Because it basically, what he did was he created his own gravitational field within this chamber. And obviously their explanation of it is going to be, I think they said, we used it to measure the charge of an electron. But it's like Ken Wheeler says, it's not the description of the experiment that matters, it's the explanation. And explanations can change, and at the end of the day, it's the phenomenon itself, where basically you can make oil hover using nothing but electrical, so that implies that gravity itself is electrical, and also it implies that it needs to be contained within something,
Interesting.
So,
And then would the
Interesting, that
Earth
would have to be contained.
would the Earth act as like a
Field.
superconductor there?
I'm not quite familiar with like superconductors and all that. That's kind of the extent of my knowledge, but I'm always willing to learn more, obviously. But
Yeah.
We'd be within a field of some sort, that creates, which I think is true. Like it's some sort of electromagnetism.
And I think another thing I think that kind of lines up with this kind of giant Millikan apparatus dome, electrified electromagnetic dome, is that it explains what a satellite communication is better. Because, to say it's all ground-based, I think has some issues. I was talking with an anti-flat earther that installed satellite dishes, and he was saying how you have to point it at the sky at a certain very specific degree, and he said that weather could affect it. And he pointed out that when you're out in the middle of nowhere, you could get no cell phone reception, but you'll still have satellite communication, satellite signal. Like a satellite. So that implies that it's inherently a different type of communication. So I think it explains that too, that they're somehow bouncing electromagnetic signals off of this electromagnetic dome, which would make sense because if you sent a positively charged signal up there and the dome was negatively charged, say, it could reflect it back down, and it could be like a really high bandwidth type frequency that's being shot back
it wouldn't
down.
it wouldn't go down at a predictable angle. I think it's more likely they're satellites and they can work within that electric, with that electromagnetism. That's my own thought, though. So
And I
So
think
then-
that it also could be that, let's say DirecTV sends the signal from the ground to the troposphere, whatever you want to call it, stratosphere, that they send that beam up, and then you have to angle your dish at that point where that signal is being sent to hit.
where it would bounce off and hit you. Yeah, it's just the problem is if you think about it in terms of bounce, is sending a line straight toward the whatever it is, the dome, and then having it bounce the other way, is there's only a certain way it's going to go. It's not going to be it's not going to be something you can tune into unless you're in exactly the right spot. If you just imagine the triangle that would be created by the beam.
Well, when you take a satellite dish, like let's say you're installing DirecTV at your house, well, they base it off of your location. It's not the same for me and my neighbor, meaning I have to aim it at a certain angle. Now my neighbor would aim his at a centimeter to the left or whatever. But couldn't that be based off of them knowing how the beam comes off of the stratosphere or I don't know if it's troposphere or stratosphere, whatever one that they have the scatter on. But couldn't it hit that, and then you're just aiming to catch the beam that's coming off there?
Well, hold on. This calls for.
Yeah, I think that's what he's saying is that basically his objection is that you wouldn't be able to predict it. But I think that's the kind of thing where you're not going to know that unless you have the equipment to test it out. And I think it's very possible that, given enough experimentation and stuff, in like the late 50s, there was Operation White Alice, where they were supposedly bouncing signals off the ionosphere in like Alaska, and this was before satellites were ever in space, supposedly. So, I mean, they've had years and years to figure it out.
Off the ionosphere. I'm just saying you couldn't receive it the way we think we can.
Oh, I think I hear it. I hear an easel. I knew it. I heard an easel coming.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's see what we have.
I'm on your screen.
All right. I'll free this line up though.
Okay, appreciate
my call, guys.
All right. Talk to you later.
Okay. So this is all I'm saying. Let's take all this.
If somebody does call in, just I'm going to put you on hold until Nate's ready. So.
Yeah, I'm just going to show you real quick all I'm saying. So let's say you have your.
Hey, do people call you Nate or no?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, good.
So you got your satellite dish or whatever sitting here, and then you have your radio tower, which is going ding, 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 ding. So anyway, if let's say you have your whatever it is that's bouncing off. Well,
what if it's flat? I think the sky is flat.
Okay, so we'll say it's flat.
Would it make a difference?
Which
I guess
works
it
better.
would. Okay.
It doesn't matter what shape it is, actually. So you're bouncing off something flat up here. So the thing is to hit that satellite dish, you have to go right at the right angle if it's going to bounce off and hit it. Otherwise, if your satellite dish is over here, you're not going to be able to pick up the signal no matter where you aim it, because the signal's only going to bounce at one angle. So the thing with a satellite here, if this is the satellite, then this goes at a specific angle. Yes, this one goes at a different angle. This one goes at a different angle, right? But everybody can get the signal from the same spot because this is what's sending the signal. If this is sending the signal, then you'd have to bounce it at different.
Gotcha.
You'd have to bounce it at different.
What about now when you have a convex lens? If I remember right from school and physics, if you have a convex mirror, for instance, isn't it true that no matter where you send the beam, that it always comes off? How do I explain it?
Well, yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. It's sort of like if you're in your bathroom where the two mirrors meet. If you look in that corner, you're always going to see your face, right? That's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I understand the idea. I'm trying to understand the application of it. Well, that would still require a convex mirror in space, right?
Right, which is interesting because there's a lot of people doing studies into rainbows. For instance, you cannot create a rainbow inside your house, even if you have light, sunlight, whatever. It won't work unless you have a mirror. So it's almost like a rainbow requires a mirror in order to exist.
That's weird. I haven't heard that.
Oh, let's go to the phones.
Take the call.
You're getting a lot of feedback there. I'm not sure if you've got the radio show on as well, or.
He doesn't hear us.
Can you hear us okay or no?
Yeah.
I can hear myself echoing, so you've got the show on. Can you, if you turn that off, then you can probably talk.
Is it better?
Let me try. Nope, I can still hear myself. If you have the show on, if you're watching the show, you just have to turn that down, I think. Okay, try now.
Something else.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
He's got an echo on
Is
it.
that better?
Yeah, it's a little better.
I guess I'll just try calling back later.
Well, what is it? What do you got going on? Are you playing the show?
What do you got going on? Playing the show? Well, I just wanted to talk to Jeran about his debate yesterday.
Well, I'll
Okay.
just mute myself. There it sounds like it's not echoing, Jeran.
I'm echoing too, but go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and say what you need to. Hello.
Oh, well.
Okay. I'm
We
gonna have to-
tried.
Do you want to try and you can say what you need to say real quick?
I just hang up.
Okay. That ain't gonna work well. Well, we'll try. If the phone
We
lines
try.
are open again, if you want to call in,
You're
562.
seeing my producer sleep, by the way. Sorry, go ahead.
He's always sleeping during showtime. It's disappointing. That's what cats do, though, you know?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. He actually lifted his head up a little bit there.
He heard
Anyway,
me.
go ahead and give the number. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
That's right. 562-735-3528 if you want to give us a
Okay,
call.
I wanted to show you that crisis actor. Here,
Yeah.
let me send you the link, and then you can play this.
Okay.
This is from Melbourne. This is the girl. This is supposedly the guy's mom. Okay, so I just wanted you to play it and see what people think.
Okay, let me put it into the chat. You put it in the...
I just put it in the chat, the
I see
group
it.
chat here
Sorry.
in our Hangout. Yeah,
No, I see it.
the second link.
Gotcha. And we do have a call coming in, so we'll take that real quick. Hey, who's this? You're on with AltNews Tonight.
Hello?
How's it going?
Good. Jeez. Mine
We
is way
shocked you.
delayed here, too. Boy, you're going to have trouble fielding questions here.
It sounds okay on our end.
It sounds okay. We can hear you
so
fine.
Hopefully it'll be all right for you.
If you have the show on, just turn the show off, and then you should just hear us on the phone.
Okay, I'll shut it off. Okay, you're on to Melbourne. I'm way... no wonder the guy before was...
Yeah, I think it does get confusing.
Okay. Jeez. Yeah, I don't really even have a question other than to comment on our news. I'm up in Canada here. Saskatchewan, and our local news had new artist renderings, images of Pluto today. Right. So it's always artists' renderings or composite. I mean, if they have cameras out there, why aren't they just? And of course, what do they show? They show Pluto the dog's image on it. I mean, so what's this? Where's the new footage? It looks like the same photos they've been putting out for as long as I can remember of Pluto. It's once you learn this, it becomes so laughable and comedic that you often think to yourself, how were you so duped before? Like, how could you buy into this?
I feel the same way, and the hard part is I really thought originally, go back 2 years in time, I thought by showing people some of this stuff that it would just be as apparent as it was to a lot of people, like you said, or like that there's just no proof of the things that they have fed us as being facts, and you should recognize what it takes for something to be proven. And there's so many people out there, 90% of this world, that will tell you that the moon landings are real because they saw it on TV, and that the ISS must be real because they see it on TV. And it's like shocking that you're like, okay, I understand that, but you do understand that they make movies and that they can edit things without you even noticing. So where is the actual proof? Where's the real evidence? And there's just nothing, and yet people will still argue that it's all real. And I understand it's a tough thing to face, that it might not be, but I don't understand what the big deal would be is if everyone on Earth just said, yeah, that's true, there's really not proof, and we all went at these space agencies and these, Chinese space agency and Russian, and we all said to them, hey, prove this stuff real quick. If they prove it, then it's all done. We all go back to, and we just wanted to make sure that what we were being told is the truth. But instead, you get those people to turn on the people questioning it and say we're all idiots. But it's like, that's great that you think that, but what would be the problem with just asking for proof? How could that hurt humanity?
And when you say proof, that's the thing is we're not going to prove anything because you can't prove anything. It's all what's in your head anyway. I mean, as far as what the universe is and everything else, it's inseparable from your perception. So it's really just what your mind says. But it's the kind of evidence you get to support whatever argument you have. Mm-hmm. And Pluto, the thing about the pictures they get from supposedly probes or things out in outer space, the thing about them, at least that somebody pointed out to me, is they're no better than what you can get with a common telescope from Earth. And you would expect if they've got the damn thing right next to Pluto, you'd get some pretty, and these are just artists' representations, right, that you're showing right now?
I believe this is actually a picture that they say is enhanced color.
Enhanced color, right?
Yeah, but I think this is what they're trying to pass this off as like a real image from a camera.
Right. That's what they're trying to say now. Yeah. Well, I guess I'd have to see. I'd have to see what we're getting. The thing is the shadowing. I don't think you'd see a shadow. It would be so far away from the sun. I guess it depends on which side you are of the thing, but
it just seems like and that's what I mean. Is there's just so many things that are bad. Yeah, go ahead.
People are going to say they proved it. That's all. They're going to say they
Right.
proved it because they showed us this evidence. So all you can really dispute is the evidence, and whether it's believable.
True.
Yeah, Jeran, and Nathan, I got into the chat late. I'm not sure who you are, Nathan, but I don't, and I'm not sure what your stance is because I got in so late. Are you kind of on the fence? Are you a globe guy, or are you a flat Earth
No,
guy now?
I don't. I think it's probably definitely not a globe spinning around the sun. There are a few. So the globe Earth model, as far as I'm concerned, is basically debunked by pretty reasonable, rational thinking. I believe that our perception of Earth from Earth is that it's completely flat and stationary. I don't think that means much because our perception, we know, is completely faulty. And we know that based on the moon illusion. When the moon is closer to the horizon, we see it as larger. And we know this because if you take out your iPhone and try to take a picture of it, you can't take a picture of what you see because what you see isn't real. It's wrong. And no matter what, even if you know it's wrong, if you know the moon isn't actually any larger at the horizon than it is in the sky, that your eyes are really seeing it the same way, it doesn't matter. You can't shake it. So what I'm saying is perception, we can say that the Earth is flat. Our perception from Earth is that the Earth is completely flat. That doesn't explain how we can have eclipses, though.
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, and what we're gonna do on Thursday is he's going to bring his issues with the idea of it being flat, and I'm going to answer those questions because the great thing that I liked about Nathan, the reason that he's joining in the show is I love the way he researches and he's open-minded, and yes, he doesn't believe in the flat Earth, but my secret goal, don't tell him anything, but is to convert him live on the air in front of everybody. No.
In a sense, I do believe in it because I believe in the principles of it. I just think it's a more complex model than just saying it's flat.
Which may end up being the case. And like I said,
to prove.
Tesla said
we're never going to know.
Well, see, I disagree with that, but I think.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say quick, like the misconception from a lot of people when they hear flat, of course, they think you'll fall off the edges, and of course the Antarctic ice shelf explains that, why that couldn't happen. But people don't understand. We're not talking flat as a pancake. They go, well, where does molten lava come from? Well, there's a depth to this flat Earth, right? And again, it's not flat on the surface. There's mountains, there's hills, but I mean, we don't know how deep, the pillars of the Earth or the depth. I don't know what's it called, shell, goes because they've only dug what they said on record, 7 miles or 12.5 kilometers or something. So
8 miles. Yeah.
I mean, but people think, well, flat. Then there's got to be depth and some substance to it. But just a couple of quick things, because I know there's probably other people calling in. I'd heard something about telescopes having these images built into them. Now things are so far out of reach these days and so preposterous that I wouldn't even surprise me if they did something like that. Now these images of Saturn, are they actual like concrete images, or do you think that they're somehow built into the telescope to trick people, or could it be that God has created? Because I don't believe in planets anymore. So is it some sort of different shaped star that God created?
Yeah, and I would say that I don't think that they built them. Now, I won't say that as far as the ones that plug into your computer and do. I mean, I've never seen one of those. I don't think that would be something that they do. I know for a fact because the telescope that we had, you couldn't just look in the sky and something appear. I would have to aim it at the planet and to see it in the. So clearly, whatever I was seeing in that telescope was what I was seeing in the sky, but it was. When you look with your eyes, of course, you can never see a planet looking like a sphere. You would just see the little light. So when you look through the telescope, what was showing to me there did kind of have a somewhat of a sphere look, but we took the telescope and aimed it across the street, and you aim it at, say, a fence. Well, the fence would appear in the telescope to be curved, but the fence is clearly, when I look with my eyes, a flat, straight up and down fence. So when I looked in the telescope, it was showing that the fence starting to curve away from me. And I just said, well, that makes sense. That when I look in the sky and I see Jupiter, it's being bent away from me, just like the fence was. Therefore, I'm going to see what appears to look like a sphere in the sky and call it Jupiter. So at that point, I actually got rid of the telescope. because I didn't want it anymore. I said, well, I don't want somebody to distort my view and then say this is proof that these things in the sky are spheres, because I just proved to myself that your telescope is creating the sphere illusion.
You're being told what you're seeing, and that's not right? Right,
exactly.
Before you guess you have this anticipation of what you're going to see, and then you see it, and they're like, okay, yeah, there it is.
And a telescope is a monocular. It's a single eye device. You can't even see 3D with one eye. So anybody who's saying that they do see a sphere in the telescope is really basing that off of their brain may be telling them that, but you can't, one eye is not a 3D. It's a flat. It's like a monocular.
And I'm hogging the phone here, but one last thing. Have either of you, I imagine you probably have, Jeran, you've heard of Project Bluebeam, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Do you think there's a possibility of that happening? Because I was just thinking about learning of the firmament, which I believe there is, and that somehow being the monitor screen that these images can be bounced off of. And now if the whole Earth, flat Earth, gets these images at once, and say it's a fake alien invasion or whatever, that would seem more plausible on a flat Earth for them to get away with it than a globe Earth. And also, if the sun isn't all that large, which us flat Earthers don't really believe. I'm not sure how far across it is, what the diameter, but 30 miles, 50 miles. I'm not sure, but I think it could be possible for these people with their technology and their mad scientist type of ways that they go about things to somehow obscure the sun at a time or place when they may want to set this Project Bluebeam in motion, so that it is a darkened flat Earth entirely, and then being these images. Does that make any sense?
He just asked, does Mr. Burns do that? Yeah, it makes sense. And I'm not sure that Project Bluebeam is really possible, and I say that because I think it's too localized. That if you're, you've seen videos of that. They put like a city in Japan or something.
Yep.
It's like, but that's only Japan saw that. You had to be in that area to see it. So I don't think there's anything that exists that they could project onto the sky that everybody would see a correctly rendered image.
Right.
So, because I know people have said before, like, oh, the moon's a hologram, and I don't think that's possible, because you would have problems with clouds, for example. I mean, I might have a cloud over my house, so I can't see the moon, but somebody in the city next to me isn't dealing with that cloud. They see the moon. So, I knew that it can't be a hologram. It just wouldn't work that way. How are you projecting it through clouds, for instance? Or what if, what if you're shining up your projection and you hit a cloud? Well, then nobody sees the moon. So it just never really jived with me as far as them having that ability. And I think their whole alien invasion thing is it's too late. They had a chance to do that. I don't think anybody would believe it now, but maybe I'm wrong. People want aliens to exist for whatever reason. A lot of people want that. So I don't think that there is any such thing. If there is aliens, they are beings or things from
fallen
this earth.
angels.
Well, if they are, then they're from this earth. I don't think that there's anything that lives outside of it. And as far as the crafts or UFOs, that's just, of course, the government is going to be so far ahead of what we think as far as technology. So, I don't even doubt the reports that people say they've seen UFOs dive into the ocean. I mean, I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibilities that the government has craft that can, be flying in the sky and then drop down into the ocean. But I definitely disagree with people who think that aliens flew from another star system. They got through the galaxy fine. They got into the Earth and then couldn't drive all of a sudden and crashed in Roswell. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, and if you believe in the firmament now, there can be nothing that penetrates it from the outside, right? So there can be nothing that visits us. And like you say, as far as the UFOs go, I do believe people have seen these aircraft, but I think they've been built, at Area 51 or whatever, and they're of human origin, and their technology is just so far ahead of us that they've been able to fly these things around and trick people for the longest time. But anyway, I've hogged this, and people are complaining here on the thing here. So I thank you guys. I never get to talk to anybody that actually knows what's going on, so it's nice to have a sounding board myself here. And you do good work, Jeran. I don't know about these other guys. I like Eric Dubé. I don't know if there was a fight there or something, or one he says that you're a shill.
Of course.
I just go with my gut. Russian Vids does good work, but
I agree.
you just got to sift the baby from the bathwater, and it seems like you know what you're talking about and aren't trying to, I don't know, make money or something. You hear rumors, right?
Of course, yeah. And, I try and do the same thing every time. I just try and speak honestly, truthfully about my observations, my opinions. And, yeah, of course, and that's something I didn't expect when I first started doing this, that I didn't know that people would come up with their own made-up things or say that, when you really didn't mean to do something that these people are saying that you did, or that it's just, I learned to deal with it, and I can't help that. No matter what I do, people are going to say whatever they want about me. I've seen videos saying that Nathan is a shill, and for me, I'm just able to discern what information I take in and chalk up to fact, and what I take in, and if it doesn't fit what I've observed, then I just throw it out. And when somebody's put together a good grouping of stuff that I don't agree with, then I just stop watching them. So like Eric Dubé, he's put enough good research into things that I watch his videos. And
right.
I think he does a good job of presenting. He's got a great radio voice. If somebody said, who do you want to go on this national syndicated radio show, I'd probably pick Eric Dubé. That I think that he speaks well. He understands the content. Has he made some mistakes in his videos? Has he repeated some stuff I don't necessarily think is true? Sure. But that's a mistake you're going to make when you're venturing into the research that we are doing, which is not state funded, which is we don't have a huge budget to do it, so we're going to make mistakes. And that's all you can do, is just hope that you find people that are at least speaking truthfully. And that's why I like Nathan. I've never seen him on his channel. He has his own channel called Lift the Veil, where he does a good news show 3 times a week. And it's one of the shows I watch because you can see he's telling you his research right in front of you. He's showing you how he got to the conclusions he reaches. And I've never seen him do anything that would make me say, oh, this guy's a liar. He's lying. He's trying to get me to believe this, or he's trying to push me in this direction. He's just presenting evidence and letting people make up their own minds. And that's kind of what I want to do, is that I want to just show people what I see. And if everyone said you're crazy, only you see that, nobody else sees it, then I would go back and, and just say, okay, I guess it's me who's crazy. But when I did start bringing this stuff forward, a lot of people were there saying, we feel the same way. We see the same thing. We agree. And I just took that as meaning I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep presenting this. And the more I've gone on in 2 years, there's been nothing that's come forward that has told me I was wrong. It's all been more evidence that I'm on the right track. So does it mean that I know all the answers? Absolutely not. Not even close. But I at least enjoy the process, and I think that we can get to a better world if some of the things that we're seeing that we've been lied to about are shown to everyone, that these are lies. These are not truth. We're being kept down. We're being held back by some of these things that these organizations are doing, like NASA. And, if we didn't go to the moon, freaking come out and tell people we didn't go to the moon. Stop the pretending and the fraud. I can't stand liars. That's the whole problem with the world, liars.
Yeah, we had a female Canadian astronaut was just on she was just on the news yesterday. I forget her name now. She was the first Canadian female, I guess, in space. And she's retiring, or she was complaining about how there weren't more females, or something along those lines. But she, again, and Chris Hadfield did this too, about talking about something about what we will one day be able to get to the moon, right? Remember when Hadfield said that? It's like they're dropping these subtle hints. Well, like, I thought you were already there, 6 times,
Right.
So in their own kind of hubris, they give away hints in what I mean, not everyone's going to be polished on what they say, and the script right isn't right in front of them all the time. So, I'm of the belief that you can't even land on the moon. But here I go again talking. I don't think it's terra firma, right? But I'm going on and on here. I'm sure there's other guys that you can. I'll hang up now. You guys can field some other calls if you want, and I'll just listen to you now.
Okay, appreciate the call.
Okay, thank you guys. Bye.
Thank you. Check out my channel, Lift the Veil. It's great.
I wouldn't go that far. No, I'm just kidding. It is a great channel.
I just thought I'd try. Since he said he hadn't heard of me, I was like,
and you get to see more of Doshi, which is, what's better than that?
Yeah. Right. You've been showing him this whole time.
No, I haven't. I was actually on my browser here, showing this is Saturn, just so you know. This is...
I don't see you anymore. That's what's going on.
Oh, did I screw up something?
I don't know why. I don't see your screen, but that's all right. I don't need to see it.
Okay.
Well,
so yeah, that was a good call, but yeah, I totally agree with what he's saying, that there is definitely something wrong with what we've all been told. And one of the big thing, I know you have a big problem with Elon Musk, so do I, but that's a big clue to me, is just the amount of hoopla that went behind being able to land a rocket on Earth, even though the rocket barely went 50 miles high and came back. It didn't have people in it, and it never has taken off again. Yet, if you look at the moon landings, you sent a rocket 250 or 238,000 miles. It landed on a foreign body with people inside of it. They stayed there for a little while, and then it took off again with those people in it and brought them back to Earth. So if that's possible 48 years ago, then big deal that Elon Musk sent a rocket 50 miles up and it came back down and landed. They've never resent the rocket up. That didn't have people in it. It didn't go 238,000 miles. Let me catch this call.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Not only did we land a rocket ship on a foreign, on a celestial body, we did it by hand, flying it by hand and by sight, not even with any kind of computer guidance. And it was heavy with fuel, because it had to take off again, which these other rockets aren't heavy with fuel, and you're on Earth's gravity, which should be a lot more predictable. I said exactly the same thing. It's ridiculous. Anyway.
Yeah, you're on with AltNews Tonight. What's up?
Hey, long-time listener, first-time caller.
All right.
I was watching your little telescope views of the so-called planets, and I think that especially some of the more current models, digital and stuff like that, they're actually giving you a CGI image when you point it in the direction that they, have calculated or whatever with all your electronics. So I think a lot of the P900 stuff that people are doing, looking at the stars and the planets, are a lot closer to what reality probably is. And they definitely don't look like terra firma.
No, you're talking about like the people who have taken... I'll look up Awake Souls. I think he does. No, that's not the guy's name. Wide Awake. Have you seen his stuff?
Yeah, I have. And this other guy, what was his name? Anyway, he's done a lot of pictures recently. Not now you see.
Who's that?
I don't remember.
Oh yeah.
Now you see TV is a different thing. I'm trying to. Flat Earth photography, maybe that's what it is.
I've seen that guy.
He's done a lot of stuff too. But the other comment I wanted to make, and then I'll just get off and let somebody else call in, was I saw something on mainstream TV. It's on the weekends. It's called a show called Origins, and I just caught the end of it, and they were talking about the ISS and what made it possible. And the three things that they listed were rockets, of course. Then there was scuba, and then it was helicopters, or maybe it was rockets, helicopters, and scuba. I don't know, you can figure out which order they are. I didn't get a chance to go back and try to find maybe an archive show of it somewhere, but it would be interesting if helicopters have that significant of a thing that they're giving it credit. Maybe that's how they do some of the free fall stuff with the anti-gravity situations, because a helicopter could fall much further than an airplane could.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know why they would give them any credit at all. You didn't hear what their reason was for giving them credit?
No, they were just giving them credit for, that's why we have the ISS now, is because of rockets, helicopters, and scuba.
Interesting.
All right, it's good to talk to you guys, and you guys both have great work. I'm subscribed to both your channels, and I'll get off here and I'll talk to you guys again.
All right, appreciate the call.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya. Okay. So I'm going to shut this down for a second and let you show. So did you see what I'm showing here, or did I go?
No, I don't see anything, but
let me get this back up.
That's all right. I'm not going to show any news. We've already been on for an hour and a half, so yeah, I'm good on that.
Oops, that's
so
not right. Okay.
and we got a few good calls. What do you want to do?
Yeah, that sounds good. So just so everybody knows, we'll be back on then Thursday, and Nathan's going to put together a list of things that he has questions about regarding the flat Earth, and I will attempt to answer those. And I had a couple people I saw asking about the show that we did with Zach last night, and you can go to truthfrequencyradio.com, and you can put /Jeranism Raw at the end if you want, or just go to shows and then find my show, and then you can go to the most recent one. And it is free until next Monday, at which time when we do the next live show, then that one becomes the free one for the next week. And so that's how you watch it for free. Just go there and watch it live or within the next week. I did upload the entire 3 hours onto my other channel, which is called Jeranism Raw, one word. I'm usually not supposed to do that, so just take advantage of it this time. Usually it's supposed to be like a teaser, like put up an hour or two, and then try and get people to go to the station. But this time I did load the whole thing. I thought it was important. And yeah, and if you want to become a subscriber there, it's I think it's like $10 a month. And the good thing about that is you get all the archives. So tons of people have shows there. Susan Lindauer, you might know who she is. She's the ex-CIA girl that used to be the go-between between Iraq and the United States. So she's got a lot of good information, 9/11 stuff. You've seen her. She does videos on YouTube speaking about 9/11. And then you've got Rob Skiba, you've got Mark Sargent, you've got Zen Garcia, you've got Zachary K. Hubbard. So there's quite a few of us, and I like the station because I know I can only speak for myself, but we were given a show and told that we had 100% content control. And that was important to me, is to not be told, you can't talk about the Jews, or you can't say this about, whatever. I mean, I'm going to say whatever I want to say. And so I never thought that I would be given an opportunity on a radio station like that you're able to speak your mind and not be held to a certain, you only can speak about these things, or we don't talk about 9/11, whatever. So that's awesome. That's a great thing. And yeah, is there some people on there that speak about things, obviously anti-flat Earth? Go watch Zach's show Wednesday, and I'm sure he will spend a ton of time telling you how wrong the flat Earth is. But I don't mind that. Again, I know that there's going to be people talking about aliens, and that there's already people living on Mars. Yeah, they're going to talk about that. Does it mean it's true? Not necessarily. Again, have discernment, listen, and whatever meets your reality, then you can take that in and do what you want with it, and what doesn't, just kick it out. So, and this picture here of Saturn is classic. I don't know if anybody's watching this, but if this looks like a sphere to you, it's what is Saturn supposed to be? 100 times the size of Earth? I don't even know.
It's big.
It's big.
Can
right?
I plug my show too?
Nope. It's just my. I'm the only one who's allowed to plug. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Tune in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Lift the Veil at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, at least as long as we're not in daylight savings time. So tune into that. It's a great show. And if you want to catch this show as well as my show on a podcast, it really is a great podcast. Both of us are good radio guys. Go just search Alt News anywhere there's our podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. In fact, it's soundcloud.com/altnews. I do this as my full-time job, even though I don't support myself with it. I'm planning to eventually. So if you get value out of the work I do, and Jeran, I'm sure, has the same option for him. If you get, I don't run commercials. So feel free to give a monthly donation if you want to support my work. I know you're just meeting me, though. So get to know me better, get some value.
Absolutely.
And then,
I think
sign up for my newsletter.
And I put ads on my stuff because I figure if Google is willing to pay me a little bit for videos I've made, that I don't think that it really inconveniences people too much to look at ads. For me, when I watch other videos, I'm able to, I don't know, look somewhere else for 5 seconds.
Sit through the ad. That's all he's saying. He deserves it.
No, but I mean, even at the 5 seconds, just skip past it, and that's fine. I don't think it's too much of a hindrance. And hey, I'll take an extra few bucks for some videos. A lot of my videos get blocked because they're controversial, but like I said, I'm not going to not put ads on mine. Now, I know Nathan doesn't because he got barred from doing that early on, probably because of his channel name. You should have gone with Nathanism, man. You would still be no, but yeah. So what happens is that he can't do that. So if you could help him, if you like his content, if I challenge you, go watch one of his shows, his Monday, Wednesday, Friday shows, And I think he's funny. I don't know if he intends to be or if it's just comes across that way. But I think it's
just lucky.
Yeah, it's lucky. It's a funny show.
I'd make shorter shows too. Check them out. Anyway, we don't need to go on and on.
No.
We just want you guys to know that we create value for you because we think you deserve it, and because we feel compelled to spread information for whatever reason, not for financial reasons, most certainly.
No.
So anyway, thanks everybody for watching the show. Though I'll leave it alone though. I'll let you finish up, Jeran. Thanks for the show. It's a good show.
Yeah, appreciate you being on. We'll see you on Thursday, guys. And yeah, hopefully we're providing you something that you're not getting elsewhere. That's the goal. If we're not, please let us know that you think the show is dumb so we don't spend any time worrying about putting it together because that would be pointless. So anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's it. Hope to see you guys soon. Probably on Thursday will be the next time. So appreciate you guys watching. This has been Alt News telling you how it is and what it isn't. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Alt News Tonight. I'm your host, Jeran from Jeranism, and with me, because he has to be, is Nathan Stoltman. Nathan, are you there?
It's not just because I have to be. I want to be here, Jeran.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, don't tell fibs about me.
Sorry, we got started a little bit late. We had some technical difficulties, and we are trying to go this week without our beautiful faces on the camera, so we do apologize for that. I know we just lost half the audience because of it, but we're just trying something a little different this time, so sorry.
Because we're not being on camera?
Yeah.
You know what you're showing on the screen is the what it is fade out, I think.
Yes, it probably is because we have nothing
What
to
else
show.
are they going to look at, though, huh?
They could look at the browser window.
Yeah, I suppose.
That's pretty good. So what do I want to start with? And then we'll get into the news. I didn't have a whole lot of time yesterday to spend on checking the news because I was dealing with a Mr. Zachary K. Hubbard. He is a master at the art of gematria.
In the sky on a globe model is because the globe spins around that axis. That's it. Just
Right.
because it happens to be directly over the north, the axis of the Earth.
So I just did the math on that. 16,000 light years is 96 quadrillion miles. That's a 96 followed by 15 zeros. So this is the kind of thing that I'm trying to point out is that, go outside tonight and look up at the sky and take a look at the first star you see and just realize that the closest star to us is 25 trillion miles away. And if you want to know how far away that is, you can think of a gun. I mean, a bullet is extremely fast, right? You're not going to be able to dodge it or anything. But if you shot a bullet at the closest star and it continued to go the speed that it left the barrel, it would take 1.9 million years until the bullet got to the closest star. So, I mean,
Right.
It's just ridiculous that that's the closest one. So all these distances are astronomical.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Well, and it's just, it's upsetting to hear somebody, we don't need to talk about other YouTubers necessarily, and I don't think we make a point to do it.
Mm-mm.
But you guys were on a show together, and And the way he talks about facts as if he's got a grasp on them is, disturbing. When clearly,
Yeah, that's what
they
what bothers
weren't really
me.
researched,
And that's all I want people to do. And I think that if people asked why are people becoming flat earthers, and I know a lot of people consider it a psyop or that it's a stupid idea, ancient desert wandering belief. But if people are wondering, and I know some people might be watching the show that don't necessarily believe that, and that's fine. I think people can believe what they want. But if you're wondering why are people starting to follow this idea and look into it, it has a lot to do with once you've done the research on the model that we've all been taught, because they just kind of explain it away. They just kind of told us when we were kids, oh, it's a globe, and we all stick to it, and it's because of gravity, and we're in the universe, and there's planets and other suns. And they just kind of leave it there. And when you really start to dig into it, you realize that there's a lot of assumptions that go along with the idea of being on it. And recently he started to speak out against the idea of a flat earth. Have you heard any of his videos or seen any of that, Nathan?
I was going to say he's a master of something else. I heard a little bit of that show. I was hoping that you would play some of it. And then we can talk about Zachary Hubbard and his mastery of gematria, the many gematrias.
Tons of them.
Or the many different forms. Yeah, I'm excited. I listened to some of it and formed an opinion quickly. So I'm interested to hear what our audience thinks.
All right. Well, I've got a little clip to play for you. So we'll start out with that. It's just a few minutes long. So let's start out there and we will talk after that.
The North Star proves the Earth is a sphere.
A
lot of flat earthers seem to have no knowledge about the North Star. They don't understand that it's way, way further away than all the other stars. That's why it appears to never move in the sky, because it's so distant. That's what we're told.
You're so off. I hope you know how bad you're completely wrong about that. What do you mean?
How am I completely wrong about that?
Because
that's mathematics.
What do you mean it's mathematics? So the other stars that do circles in the skies has something to do with their distance from the Earth?
Absolutely.
Oh boy.
Well,
Dude,
I don't understand why that's funny. The North Star is supposed to be way further away than all those other stars.
The star is between 400 and 500 light years away. That it's not far at all compared to every other star. The stars are all such equal distances away from the Earth. Not equal. I'm saying they are all so incredibly far that they all act identical. That's why we see star circles, because even though one might be 100 light years and the other one might be 4,000 light years, even though that's a couple 100 trillion miles difference, they do the exact same thing. The reason the North Star stays where it is because it's directly aligned with the axis of the Earth. That's the reason why it stays where it is. Has nothing to do with its distance. It's not even...
According to the model, anyways.
Yeah, according to the model. And this is why I hate explaining the globe.
Look, so I just have to say something. The average star, in terms of science, this is scientific understanding, the average star is 4.3 light years from the Earth. This is the scientific knowledge. I'm just saying this is what's out there, and everyone can verify this.
Star.
The average star is 4.3 light years.
Zero to do with its distance from Earth.
So anyway, that was fun, wasn't it?
Holy crap. I was like, doesn't anybody have a smartphone in there?
I know.
I just looked it up, and who knows what the hell he was talking about.
I couldn't figure it out.
Screaming about it. The average star. All I had to do was do a search. Distance of stars on Google.
Mm-hmm.
The average Alpha Centauri. It says a light year. Alpha Centauri A and B are roughly 4.35 light years away.
Which would be the closest, right?
4.25 light years away. It talks about them. I don't know if those are the closest, but then it says that, I guess I should put an average, but the North Star is 433 light years. So it's no different than every other star.
Well, here's the problem with when you say average of the stars is there is no such thing.
You can get a mathematical average. Here, it's the nearest is 4.3, it says. Oh, maybe you're right, because they go off to infinity.
Right. So, I mean, how can you... That's the average star distance. I mean, which stars now, if you're just taking what we can see, maybe you can take the stars that we can see. I think there's 300 or I don't know how many we can actually see. But if you took the average of those, you would not be 4.3, considering that is the closest. So
those are the closest, yeah. It's actually one of the North Star is one of the closest stars. It seems
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm sorry, it's 433. Hold on.
Yeah,
Hold
it's
on. We just want to make sure to
433.
get it right. Okay, so it's far, but if you say well, how can you even say what the furthest star is?
The furthest
There
star
are
that we can see.
billions of them. Yeah.
The furthest star we can see, I believe, is 1,600 light years away. That's a guess, so you might have to
Okay,
look that
so
up.
that's okay. Here, no. According to this article, farthest star we can see with our naked eye is 16,300 light years away.
16,000. Okay.
So I think what he was talking about, you'd have to do a little more work to see the usual stars we see, like how far is, I don't know, something in Orion or something. But all the same, it has nothing whatsoever to do with it staying fixed in the sky. The reason it stays fixed
years away, the North Star is said to be 433.8 light years away. That's over 100 times further away. So, Jeran, and this is what I mean with the flat Earth community, because all night you've been saying I'm not researched. Look, I'm very well researched in a way because I studied this stuff in school. I was always top of my class journalism. I'm not just any.
I'm trying to
look.
Wrong.
The North Star is 100 times further away than the average star. So you can't just say it's just like all the other ones, because it's not true.
What you're saying is completely false, Zach. The closest star to us is 4 light years away. The closest star. Okay, so when you say the average star is a couple thousand light years, could be a million light years. What stars are you considering when you're taking an average? You're talking about all the stars? That doesn't make any sense. Some stars are billions of light years
further away.
Yes.
Yeah, some stars are billions of light years away. What do you mean?
The North Star is special. It's a lot more distant than the majority of stars in the sky. Anyone can look this up. Look, if you're in the flat Earth and you're into this debate right now, look it up after Jeran and I are done talking.
The furthest star is known, according to the model, is 13.3 billion light years away. So that's
right. So take an
billion.
average. The average isn't going to come out to 4.
The North Star you said is how many, babe? How many million?
It's between
light
400
years?
and 500.
But millions. So
No. The North Star is 400 or 500 light years away.
Okay, so that's.
But that's not an average. It's a very.
The North Star is also, I forget what they call it in space. It's in a special spot too, supposedly right above the North Pole. But the fact that it is so distant is the reason it appears to never move in the sky.
Christ,
and the point is I hear a lot of flat Earth channels saying that the North Star never moves, and that is proof that we're stationary. But if you look at the mathematics of how far away it is, it's explained why it is what it is. And there's a reason sailors have used it for 1,000 years and probably longer than that to sail the oceans.
You're basically wrecking your channel right now, because this is going to be repeated over and over again. You're going to get shown that you had no clue what you're talking about. So I'm just telling you, I would stop talking about that. Look up the things you're saying first.
Don't look up things that support what you were taught in school, because that's what.
Well, even he's not talking about anything that's close to being correct. The North Star being at the center and not moving has absolutely